All right, thank you so much again, and I hope you enjoyed your meal. That was very delicious, right? Very delicious. Thank you so much.
And
Thank
with
you
this,
again to the volunteers.
Of course, and we would also like to thank Ivan Lopez. He's the executive chef of Holiday Inn and Suites in Rogers. He is the master chef for this delicious meal that you guys are eating today.
Wonderful job. Thank you so much. Can we get a round of applause?
And of course, today we would also like to thank some of the presence of distinguished people or guests that have been here today with us.
Yes, absolutely. We'd like to thank our donors and our supporters, and most importantly, we'd like to acknowledge a couple of people that some may be here, some are not here, but we'll go ahead and start that. We'd like to acknowledge Dr. Yvette Murphy-Irby. She's the Vice Provost of Diversity and Inclusion at the University of Arkansas.
We also have Bootsy Ackerman from the Office of Congressman Steve Womack, Melissa Rangel from the Office of the Governor, Clint Penso, State Representative, and Jeff William was here earlier this morning. He's also a state representative.
Absolutely. We also would like to acknowledge Dr. Evelyn Jorgensen, President of NWAC, Dennis Milligan, Arkansas Treasurer, Ms. Kathy Grisham, who is our Chief Executive Director of St. Francis House NWA Community Clinic, and also Nelson Peacock, President and CEO of NWA Council. Thank you again for being here.
And of course, like you were saying, there's also other people that we would like to call back to stage, like Rodrigo Panclarte. He is from Johnson & Johnson. If you can join us on stage so you can say some words. Thank you, Rodrigo, for being with us.
Thank you. So, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Rodrigo Plancarte. I work with Johnson & Johnson as a senior manager in customer logistics. And I've met Margarita 2 years ago at another event. And we started having these conversations to ultimately see how we can support these types of initiatives that are extremely important for a company like Johnson & Johnson. Johnson & Johnson is one of the world's largest healthcare companies, but what truly sets us apart is our credo. Our credo is our mission statement, and it's composed of 3 different paragraphs. The first one talks about the importance that the responsibility that we have towards our patients, our nurses, doctors, mothers, and fathers who uses our product. The second part of our paragraph talks about the employees in the organization, and the third one talks about the community and making sure that we give back to the communities where we operate and where we participate. This credo statement has been part of the company since the last 75 years, and 2 weeks ago, our corporate executive officer, Alex Gorski, and the executive committee decided to change it. And what was interesting about it, there were several changes made to the statement, but it was decided to include diversity. So for the first time in 75 years, the credo was changed to accommodate and recognize the importance that diversity has in the community and in the world affairs. So for me, it's truly an honor and a privilege to be here. I won't take much more time so that you can finish your meals and enjoy the rest of the afternoon. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Rodrigo.
Muchas gracias. We would also like to bring up to the stage Pip Moore, Manager of Business Initiatives over at Walmart. If you would like to say a couple of words.
Hi, everybody. I'm Pip Moore. I'm, as Zesna said, a Manager of Business Initiatives with Walmart and Public Affairs. I'm really happy to be here today, and I just want to say thank you very much to Margarita and all members of the Hispanic Women's Organization of Arkansas. Thank you for a wonderful event. This truly is a really great event, bringing together a diverse group of people for really important issues that are happening in our community. So thank you very much.
You, Pip.
Thank you, Pip.
And we would also like to call on stage Annette de la Vega, HR Manager at Tyson.
Hello, everyone. My name is Annette de la Vega, and I'm a manager and a team member at Tyson Foods. We're proud to be a longtime supporter of the Hispanic Women's Organization of Arkansas because of its incredible work to advance educational opportunities, to celebrate culture, and to promote active participation by all citizens. Inclusion and community are part of our roots and fundamental values of our company. In fact, Tyson Foods' purpose is to raise the world's expectations of how much good food can do. A great example of that is through sponsorships of events and organizations like the HWOA, which since 2000 has awarded more than 400 scholarships for local students. Those students go on to further their education, graduate, and contribute to the local success of Northwest Arkansas, and that contribution is well documented. A recent study by the New American Economy engaged NWA and the Winthrop Rockefeller Foundation found that in Northwest Arkansas, immigrants contributed $131 million in state and local taxes in 2014. And they contributed $3.1 billion to the metro area's GDP and held $1 billion in spending power. HWOA is a part of that story that's making that happen, and that is why Tyson Foods is a proud supporter of our friend Margarita and this great organization. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much again for everyone who is here as a supporter, as a donor, and our community members for making this event possible. Again, so now without further ado, we would like to introduce Raphael Garcia to the stage. And we are very excited about our keynote speaker, and Rafa will be up here to tell you a little bit more about the wonderful speaker that we have today.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for being here and supporting the Hispanic Women's Organization of Arkansas. Before I introduce our keynote speaker, I do want to once again recognize the efforts and the work of our volunteers. If you could join us one more time to recognize them and for all they have done for the conference and the organization. Thank you so much for all of our sponsors. And I also want to make sure that we once again recognize the work that Margarita does for the not only for the organization, but for the community overall, not only for the Latino community in Northwest Arkansas, but all the communities that make up this beautiful place. So if you can join me to recognize her. I'm also happy to see a lot of our students here. It's wonderful that I know you had the day off, and instead of staying home and play video games and do other things, you decided to be here, being part of this very important conversations taking place at this conference. So I do hope that you will be encouraged and that you know that you have an organization and you have people that support and that believe in you. And because we know that you are the future for our community, and you are the future leaders that we need. So thank you so much for being here, all the students. It is my pleasure to introduce today's keynote speaker. She is the president and the CEO of the Congressional Hispanic Caucus Institute, a nonprofit and nonpartisan leadership development institute founded by the Hispanic members of Congress back in 1878. The mission is to develop the next generation of Latino leaders and to build a diverse and inclusive workplace across industries. Since 2016, she has been maximizing the organization platform through a strategic partnership, unique stakeholder convenings, and critical leadership development. The organization has raised over $8 million and organized the second highest grossing for the Congressional Hispanic Caucus Institute history. It is my pleasure to introduce to you Dominica Lynch, who has been recognized across the nation by many organizations, and who works on behalf of the Latino community throughout this country. So please join me welcome Ms. Lynch.
All right, can you hear me? All right, good afternoon. How are you this afternoon? I need a little more energy. How are you this afternoon? All right, well, thank you so very much, Hispanic Women's Organization of Arkansas, for inviting me here to speak. This is the last week of Hispanic Heritage Month, so I am really honored to come here from Washington, D.C. and be with you. I want to especially thank and recognize Margarita Solorzano. We met in 2017, and she immediately invited me. Unfortunately, my schedule wouldn't allow it, so she called me again and said, then I want a year's notice so that you come in 2018. So she made it happen. Thank you so much for being a pillar in our community. Hispanic Women's Organization of Arkansas. I have a problem with acronyms, which is a problem if you're in Washington, D.C. A mission of celebrating education, culture, and community. That has been my life's work. And it feels so good to be in community with like-minded people. I want to thank also the volunteers. Without volunteers, a lot of our nonprofit organizations could not be successful. So thank you for your time and your dedication. Now, one of the things that impressed me about the work that you're doing is that at the core of what you do is you welcome newcomers to the city. I noticed that on the website you have a bilingual newcomer's guide. I think every city needs to have one of those. You embody the true American spirit. We are a nation of immigrants. We, like many of us, many before us, are building this great nation. We make America great. We can't forget that. Yes. In that spirit, today my intention is to share a national perspective on the leadership that we need to thrive even as we persevere during these challenging times. I want to give you some thoughts so for you to consider as you're raising leaders here locally so that later they thrive in the national arena. As the African proverb says, if you educate a man, you educate one person. If you educate a woman, you educate a nation. Your work is transforming not only the lives of young women, but our entire next generation. Like many immigrants, my story is about coming to the United States with a dream of a better life. I came to the States when I was 6 years old with my single mother. No English, no extended family, no money, no papers, no plan. It is easy to get lost in translation, to get caught between worlds where you never quite fit in and you're not quite sure if you ever will. But keep this in mind. It is never where you start from that matters, but it's where you end up. You see, in 1992, as I was finishing high school, I had a newborn baby, and I was cleaning 4 to 5 houses per week. You can imagine how hard that was. Any new mother will tell you, right? It's hard to clean your own house. Imagine other people's houses. But it was the only job that I could have because it was the only job where I can bring the baby because I didn't have that support, anybody that could watch him. So one of those houses that I cleaned was of a college professor. I like to call him Doc So Doc, he used to encourage me to go to college, and he would take the time to show me brochures of other single parents with their children that were living at the university. Doc reinforced my determination to be more than my circumstances. It was through a lot of hard work, a lot of sleepless study nights, a lot of baby nights, that I was able to transfer to the University of Southern California in the fall of 1994. It was stressful. My resolve was tested again and again. The truth is, many nights I wanted to quit. But giving up would mean not giving my son a better life. It would mean that I would become another Latina teen mother statistic. Empowerment happens when we decide today that tomorrow we will live differently and then do so. You can imagine Doc's surprise where 4 years later, I wrote him a letter telling him that I was a student at USC and that I was in Washington, D.C., interning for the U.S. Attorney General Janet Reno, who was the first woman to hold that post under President Clinton. And I was the first USC student allowed to bring my 4-year-old with me to the program. You know, he wrote me back. He congratulated me, and then he said that it was so fitting that I would end up at the Justice Department, that justice had been served. Over time, I understood what he meant, that justice seeks to open pathways of opportunity so that people have a real chance at fulfilling their life's purpose. It was exactly 20 years later that I returned to Washington, D.C. as the president and CEO of the Congressional Hispanic Caucus Institute, an organization founded by our Hispanic members of Congress that focused on leadership development of that next generation of Latinos. In my search for a better life for me and for my son, I discovered my calling. The work that I do is personal. I am a living testimony of organizations like CHCI and HWOA. These are critical to our students' success. If you allow me, how many of you have been impacted by HWOA's organization, their mission? There's a lot of you. All right. So you know what I'm talking about. See, I believe this so deeply that I've dedicated my career to fulfilling the mission of developing Latino leaders. My story is commonplace within our community. We are strivers. We seek a better life for our children and for our families. My mother's gift to me was bringing me to the United States. The inheritance she left me was the possibility of the American dream. I've been blessed to achieve more than I ever thought it was possible. Today, I'm proud to share that my son is an engineer and that I'm not a grandmother yet, which is great. But I'm even more proud to say that we're both community leaders and advocates of education and social equity. We all struggle. We all have a crisis. If not yet, it'll come at some point. The leaders that we need today are individuals who understand that success is a state of mind, not a professional title or a fancy zip code. Success is measured not by your paycheck, but by the difference that you make. Being empowered means you have earned your confidence, that you have honored the struggles in your life. You thrive because your spirit, your foundation, feels solid. It is from this platform that you can inspire others to do the same. I moved from Los Angeles to Washington, D.C. about 2.5 years ago. Being in Washington, D.C., surrounded by ambitious intellectuals and strategic politicos, well, it does something to you. It's intimidating, I have to admit, but it does force you to elevate your game. It requires that you learn how to walk with the certainty that you belong. Life in the district demands that you keep all things in perspective, otherwise you will lose your balance. Like many people, the 2016 election challenged all I knew about America that I love so much, and how I saw the progress that we as Latinos had made. And now, as we get closer to the midterm elections, as I see the caravan of migrants coming to this country, as I hear the rhetoric, we just went through the Supreme Court hearings, there's fear. And I can't ignore it, that I've never experienced this before. So there is no question about it. We're living in some trying times. If you're Latino, if you're an immigrant or a Muslim or a woman or a member of the LGBTQ community, you are a target. Family separations, children in cages, cruel deportations of parents without their children, and hate crimes against vulnerable people, that's not fake news, but the reality that some of us are living. We cannot let fear and hate paralyze us. But let's be clear, there is no such thing as an innocent bystander. Doing nothing makes us complicit. The leaders that we need today are individuals who are courageous. They lean into their communities, they uplift each other, and they stand up for one another. They are individuals who reframe immigrant stories as proof of indomitable resilience and resourcefulness. I read somewhere that when the dream is big enough, the odds don't matter. That, in a nutshell, is why immigrants risk so much. Refugees and immigrants coming to the United States are risking it all to find safety for themselves and their families. The alternative in some cases is death. Empowerment comes as a result of overcoming formidable obstacles. And when we collectively overcome those obstacles, we amass what I like to say call social capital and this collective wisdom. And that allows us to empower one another. And then we pay it forward to the next generation. Robert Kennedy once said, ultimately, America's answer to the intolerant man is diversity. 40 years ago, 5 visionary Latino members of Congress founded CHCI. And they did it because they were committed to increasing Latino representation in Capitol Hill. Establishing CHCI was a way to combat bigots and racists and those who perpetuate social inequality. CHCI created a pipeline of leaders who would represent the Latino diaspora and amplify our collective voice at the federal level and all levels of government. The Hispanic members of Congress opened doors for emerging leaders and exposed thousands of talented Latinos to the inner workings of government. The American Latino narrative would be celebrated and would be replicated in our community. We were founded in 1978. I wish it was 1878. We'd be further along, but it was 1978, so we celebrate 40 years. And thanks to those members, in fact, we celebrate Hispanic Heritage Month. NALEO, CHCI, LULAC, many other national organizations were born out of the result of the efforts of these 5 Hispanic members of Congress. CHCI is a symbol of that progress. Today, we have over 3,700 alumni who have participated in our paid congressional internships and fellowships and leadership development training. We have 27 members of Congress on our board and advisory council. And I'd like to recognize one of our advisory council members, Michaela Fernandez from Walmart. Thanks to her leadership and contributions to CHCI, let's give her a round of applause. We have summer internships for our students, and we do so much because of the strategic partnerships that we have. I'm proud to share that over 50% of the Congressional Hispanic Staffers Association is made up of CHCI alumni. And since 2011, we have extended our work to high school students. So we bring them to Washington, D.C. during the summer for 1 week. We make sure that we prepare them about teaching them about the policymaking process. We even give them a gift certificate to buy a nice suit. And then we get them ready to go up to the Hill to talk to their members of Congress. This past summer, we had 100 students, 20 of them were from Puerto Rico. And you know those students had a lot to say to the members, right? So it was their opportunity to ensure that their voices were heard. There is this ferocious optimism in our young people that's influencing the national change and challenging the status quo. We saw it in the likes of Emma Gonzalez and others of the Parkland shooting survivors. We saw it in the Black Lives Matter movement, the women's marches, the Me Too and the Time's Up movements. Those have activated women around the globe to stand up for their human rights, for their human dignity. These movements are fueled by the uncertainty of the times. The kind of leaders that we need understand that the only constant in life is change. and therefore they must be agile and flexible and be willing to venture into the unknown. We look back for experience, but we look forward for inspiration. We cannot fulfill our destiny by simply imitating our parents or repeating our mentors' stories. We must create new stories for a new day. We must be brave and confront our fears and have the fortitude of mind and spirit to fight oppression. I believe that exposure leads to purpose. The leaders that we need today know their worth. Think critically, act with compassion, and operate from love and not fear. Fear engenders hate and despair. Love engenders hope and optimism. Take, for instance, Oscar Alvarez, a CHCI Congressional intern. He was with us last semester. He's a full-time student at UC Berkeley on a full merit scholarship, which covers all his tuition, but not his books or his housing. Oscar is from South Central Los Angeles and a DACA student. He was born in Mexico, and he came to the States when he was 8 years old with his single mother and his little sister. He's an example of that ferocious optimism. When he was accepted to UC Berkeley, his mother was very happy for him, but also sad because she could not afford to pay his living expenses. But she did something very courageous. She gave him her most valuable asset after her children, her car. And if you live in Los Angeles, you know how badly you need a car. She gave him his car keys and she said to him, "Mijo, this is all I have, but you have to go and make this dream a reality." Oscar left Los Angeles with the thought that he would live in his car, so at least he wouldn't be homeless until he would figure it out when he got to Berkeley. Through Latino networks and student university networks, Oscar found a place to stay where other DACA students were staying, 8 to 12, sharing a one-bedroom apartment. So they would sleep on the floor or take turns sleeping on the couch or the room. Oscar was so grateful when he was accepted into the CHCI internship program, because not only was he going to get a transformative experience working for a member of Congress, but also health insurance and a Metro card and his own bed. On his first day on the Hill, Oscar FaceTimed his mother to show her the Capitol building. And at seeing the backdrop of that beautiful building, she told him, "Mijo, you are my wish come true." When Oscar was in DC, he had a choice to live in the moment or live in fear. He chose to live in the moment. His internship experience made him more determined than ever to be optimistic about his future, regardless of what the Trump administration would do with DACA. Oscar is graduating from Berkeley this next May and has been accepted to another fellowship that will pay for his master's degree. Ferocious optimism. It inspires me more fully than I can express. The students who come to Washington, D.C. to participate in our programs are incredibly talented, brave, and resilient. I'm also very proud to say that many Latinas apply to our program. Over 56% are women, and 76% of them are first in their families to go to college. And more exciting still is the number of young women who aspire to run for political office and are getting themselves ready to run. Ferocious optimism. So when they're not running for office, then they're serving as wise Latinas and top political advisors to members of Congress. One of our CHCI alumni, Bertha Guerrero, she is currently a chief of staff for California Congressman Jimmy Gomez. We recently honored her at the conference that we had last month. And if you get a chance, go to our website, chci.org, and you can see the videos. Very inspirational. We also honored Jorge Ramos from Univision, and his words were so inspiring, so I encourage you to do that. Bertha, like many others, is a wonderful ambassador of CHCI, but I'm also proud of those alums that come from here, from the Arkansas region, like Alejandro Aviles. He is from Fayetteville, Arkansas. He was a CHCI fellow in 2010 and now serves as Director of Outreach and Engagement for the Human Rights Campaign in Washington, D.C. HRC is America's largest civil rights organization working to achieve equality for the LGBTQ community. Nestle Sylvia, also from Fayetteville, she was a 2017 Spring Congressional intern who now serves as a research associate at Forward US in Washington, D.C. And Forward US is a bipartisan immigration reform advocacy organization. And even later today, you're going to hear from Diego Quiñones. He was a CHCI fellow in 2016 and now is director of Latinx engagement for the Democratic Party of Arkansas. With Diego, we had the opportunity to meet President Barack Obama in 2016. In fact, President Obama shared his story from stage and gave him a shout out. So he had a real unique connection. That was amazing. We have a total of 10 alumni from Arkansas that have participated in our programs, and we hope to have even more young people. At CHCI, we are going to capitalize on this ferocious optimism that young people feel, because the alternative then is paralyzing fear. Indeed, we're living in a critical moment. Latinos need to be seated at the power table where decisions are made about our civil rights, our education, our bodies, and the future of this country. This is why CHCI is doubling its efforts to do more, provide more internships and fellowships, bring more high school students to Washington, D.C. It takes a village, and we cannot do it alone. And while CHCI is bringing young Latinos to DC, we seek to work with local organizations like HWOA to continue harnessing the power of our culture, our community, and our young people at the regional level. To transform communities, we need to focus at the local level. We have to encourage our young people to graduate from high school, to pursue college, to seek opportunities here in Arkansas, but also outside of Arkansas, so that either they stay in DC or they come back with the knowledge that they gain. We must care for one another, doing so by holding each other accountable and showing up to vote this November 6th. According to a recent poll conducted by NALEO and Latino Decisions, it showed that 1 in 4 Latino registered voters view protecting immigrant rights as a top issue in this coming midterm election, and that 87% of them are exceedingly angry and frustrated at politics today, especially over the child separation policies at the border. So we need to turn this coraje, this anger, into votes. There are over 29 million Latinos who are eligible to vote this November 6th. Younger Latinx make up a large share of that Hispanic electorate. About 43.5% of all Hispanic eligible voters in 2018 are between 18 to 35 years old. So we have a responsibility as parents and community to ensure as soon as they turn 18 that they should be registered to vote. 1 in 4 millennials in the United States is Latino. 94% of Latinos younger than 18 are U.S. born. The numbers are on our side. There are 58 million Latinos in the United States. The U.S. Latino gross domestic product, GDP, represents a $2.13 trillion, larger than the GDP of Italy, Brazil, India, and Canada. If U.S. Latinos were a country, we would be the 7th largest economy in the world. Representation matters at all levels of government and in all industries. Representation for our communities to thrive, not just survive. See, in Congress, 8% of Congress is Latino. That's 46 total of the 535 congressional members in both chambers. There are 5 Latino senators, 1 Latina. There are 41 House representatives. Out of those 41, 10 are Latinas. It's imperative that more Latinos run for office, that more Latinos register to vote and turn out at the polls. And I want to commend HWOA for registering people here to vote at Arkansas. So someone mentioned at one of the panels that if you can't vote yourself, you can drive someone to the polls, you can encourage them, you can research the issues. See, we have the power to change things. We saw the emergence of Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, a 28-year-old in New York, described by the media as a progressive insurgent from the Bronx, who beat out an incumbent, someone that was pretty much an establishment in the Democratic Party, Representative Joe Crowley. And that has been called one of the biggest political upsets in our recent American political history. Alexandra will be the youngest woman ever to be elected to Congress to date. Now there's a Latina making history. The leaders that we need today are the leaders that change the world. They disrupt the status quo with their ferocious optimism. They have grit. They have this unrelenting desire to be better every day in the face of failure and the face of adversity. See, they make adversity their greatest competitive advantage. The kind of leaders we need today are the ones who have the backing of their communities. See, communities that give them that social capital that they need to believe in themselves and in their dreams. I wouldn't be standing here before you if I didn't have that support from my university and from other Latino leaders. I thank you, HWA, for doing just that, for harnessing the power of our culture, for generating leaders who are making a difference here locally in Washington, D.C., and in our nation. You exemplify the best that our U.S. Latino community has to offer, and I am so very thrilled and honored to have joined you this afternoon. Thank you. I don't know who I hand the microphone to, but thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Mallory Sanders. I'm also honored to serve on HWA's board. And before we let you run off, we have a quick certificate to provide for you. Arkansas has long been known for their hospitality and their love of their beautiful state. This certificate expresses the state's special recognition to an out-of-state visitor who has contributed to the progress, enjoyment, or well-being of the state of Arkansas or to her people. The story behind the Arkansas Traveler is simple. While traveling through Arkansas in the backcountry in the early 19th century, Colonel Sandy Faulkner, tired and hungry, came upon a humble squatter's cabin. He found the occupant sitting in the doorway playing the first part of a familiar tune over and over on an old fiddle. Faulkner stopped and asked for an accommodation, yet the squatter offered none. When Faulkner asked why he played the same part of that tune over and over, the squatter replied that he didn't know the rest. So Faulkner played the turn of the tune, and the squatter changed his mind, making the traveler royally welcome for as long as he pleased. So like that long ago traveler, we hope that you've had a good visit, enjoy our state, and share your own turn of the tune with us, and always have good things to say and good stories about Arkansas. So thank you. I have a certificate somewhere for you.
Thank you so much to Dominica for this awesome presentation. It's a very inspiring message. It goes very well with the conference title, Arkansas Right Here, Right Now. I'm sure that the message will continue resonating in our minds, and do not forget, if you want some experience in public service, be sure to visit CHCI to learn more about these awesome internship programs.
Absolutely. And once again, can we give a round of applause for our keynote speaker? That was incredible. Thank you so much. Thank you again to everyone that participated and everyone that participated in all the sessions. Please continue to stay with us for one more session. We would like to invite you to participate with the same enthusiasm as you did at the beginning of the conference to the last session called The Many Voices of Generations Y and Z. Thank you again for coming. We will continue to have a really great time in this next session, and thank you so much for coming again. Remember the conference, Arkansas Right Here, Right Now. Thank you very much. Let's continue making this possible.
And of course, thank you to Margarita Solorzano and all her team at HWOA for all of their effort to put in this conference for the community.
Absolutely. Thank you, Margarita, and thank you to everyone. Have a good day.